You notice it in the way she hesitates before answering, the way her eyes flicker to measure your reaction. Small, almost invisible behaviors that portray a history most men will never see. You'll see them too, if you learn to observe, to remain calm, to anchor yourself in a presence she cannot manipulate. Most men rush past these signals, blinded by charm, laughter, and surface-level desire. But you are different. You understand that every glance, every subtle hesitation, every boundary she sets carries a story, a truth about her instincts, her experiences, and what she truly respects. And the men who notice this are the men who command not only attraction, but authority, control, and clarity over themselves. As you watch this, consider this. Every insight here is a mirror, showing not just her patterns, but the areas within you where patience, composure, and perception can grow. If this resonates, make sure to hit like, leave a comment, and subscribe, so that other men seeking clarity can step into this awareness with you. Stay tuned, because what you're about to discover will change the way you see women, and the way you see yourself. Buckle up, the full truth waits just ahead. You begin to notice her presence in a new way. It isn't in her words, those are polished, rehearsed, a performance she offers freely to the unobservant. It is in her pauses, the weight she gives to certain phrases, the way she shifts subtly when a topic brushes too close to past encounters. These moments are fleeting, almost imperceptible, yet they speak volumes. Every pause is a page in a story she doesn't read aloud. And most men, desperate for validation, never bother to learn the language of these silences. You, however, do not rush. You breathe, grounded, letting time stretch between her statements. In this space, her instincts reveal themselves. She tests the waters, dropping hints of previous conquests. A glance here, a choice of words there. Not out of malice, not even conscious pride, but because the mind retains what the heart once navigated. She carries an internal rhythm, a learned choreography from past relationships, a subtle navigation through desire, curiosity, and caution. A composed man sees the patterns. You see that a certain flirtation in her tone, the way her laughter curves differently around you, is not random. It is measured, calculated, conditioned. Her past is etched in micro-expressions, in the cadence of her voice, in the protective walls she places around intimacy. And as you watch, you begin to understand, every woman carries the echoes of her history, yet only the disciplined man notices, reads, and interprets these signals without letting them dictate his emotions. You recall the words of Marcus Aurelius, observe without attachment, judge without anger. This is not about suspicion. This is mastery of observation. The world is filled with men who react, few men perceive. You anchor yourself in presence, in calm. Each glance she offers, each subtle test, is mirrored in your response. You do not flinch, you do not overreach. Your steadiness becomes a lens through which her past behaviors reveal themselves, without a word exchanged. And then there is the moment, a barely there hesitation, a measured glance away, where her instincts slip for an instant, betraying a history most men will never detect. You catch it, and in that moment, you feel the power of composed perception. A subtle curiosity sparks in her, mirrored by the quiet authority in you. Attraction is not a transaction. It is recognition. Recognition of presence, of composure, of a man who sees without clinging, who knows without judging. It is here, in these fleeting micro-moments, that the psychology of attraction unfolds. Women who have navigated multiple past experiences instinctively sense who is anchored and who is not. She tests boundaries because she has learned to gauge the men around her. You do not fall into these tests. You simply exist, unwavering. And in your stillness, she begins to reveal herself, not in confession, but in instinctual cues, in subtle behaviors, in unspoken signals. Your gaze is steady. Your awareness is deliberate. Every movement you make, every pause, communicates the mastery of your inner world. This is not performance. It is presence. And as she navigates around you, unconsciously projecting patterns from her past, you are both observer and mirror. You see her hidden history reflected in your calm. You see the interplay of instinct and experience, and in recognizing it, you achieve clarity, the clarity most men cannot imagine. A man who observes thus becomes rare. He understands that the past is never told directly. It is demonstrated, hinted at, and woven into behavior. She cannot hide it from a composed observer. Each subtle sign, the guarded smile, the flicker of hesitation, the measured laugh, tells a story. And as you remain present, unshaken, the narrative she carries becomes legible. You read her without intrusion, without judgment. This is the quiet power of Stoicism applied to attraction, perception without attachment, understanding without interference, presence without reaction. And now, as you continue to watch, as your mind begins to parse the rhythm of her behaviors, you begin to feel it, the subtle shift of knowledge, the empowerment of perception. You are no longer merely a participant in the scene. You are its anchor, its observer, its steadying force. And as she moves, tests, and reveals in instinctual waves, you realize something profound. Every behavior she exhibits is a reflection of the interaction between her instincts and your presence. The moment of insight is intoxicating. You see a pattern emerge, a choreography written by past encounters, yet readable by those who possess composure, patience, and understanding. And in that recognition, you experience something few men ever feel, the quiet, unshakable authority that comes from seeing the truth beneath surface-level attraction. You notice it now in the subtleties, the way she positions herself when entering a room, the imperceptible tilt of her head, the measured cadence of her voice when a topic brushes too close to intimacy. These are not mere quirks. They are habits forged from experience, the body's instinctual echo of past connections. A man who rushes, who demands explanations or probes with eagerness, will never perceive these microsignals. You, however, move with deliberate stillness. You let her reveal herself unconsciously, piece by piece. Observe her laughter. It is often the first clue. Not the laughter that bursts freely, but the contained, precise laugh. The one that hovers just above the surface, practiced yet fragile. It carries a memory of men who have measured her reactions, of attention she has navigated and commanded without effort. Most men hear it and assume joy. You hear it and recognize strategy. The curve of her smile, the pause that follows, the subtle glance to assess your reception. These are the instruments of her social calculus, honed by experience, shaped by instinct. Her gestures betray an almost imperceptible choreography. The way she tilts her body slightly away when a conversation edges toward personal disclosure. The way she lightly brushes her hair in patterns you barely register. Each movement is a residue of prior lessons in desire, in caution, in influence. A stoic observer does not flinch, does not misread these cues as deception. He notes, measures, and understands the underlying patterns. He recognizes that every instinct she exhibits has been refined in response to men who sought to claim her attention without earning it. And then there is her speech, the rhythm of her words, punctuated by pauses she cannot fully conceal. She chooses phrases carefully, sometimes as invitations, sometimes as tests, always as measures of your composure. A man untrained in perception takes her words at face value, reacting, asserting, losing presence. You, however, recognize that her verbal choices are shadows of her history. She has spoken to men who misread her, misjudged her signals, and failed to recognize the subtle thresholds she sets. Each syllable is a marker, a map of experience. You begin to understand her gaze. It is a lens constantly evaluating, sometimes playful, sometimes wary, always measuring the space between curiosity and caution. It is here that her past whispers most clearly. The man who does not anchor himself feels a pull, an unease, a compulsion to fill silence with words or gestures. The composed man, in contrast, absorbs the signal, noting the flicker of recognition, the hesitation, the tiny deviations from pattern, and allows understanding to emerge naturally. Her boundaries are another revelation, not overt but instinctual. She tests proximity, both physical and emotional, not out of malice, but because she has learned the power of subtle assertion. A man without composure might retreat, might assert prematurely, might misread caution for rejection. You, grounded and aware, navigate the space without distortion, reading her actions as clues, not as judgments. The dance of approach and withdrawal, so many men stumble through blindly, becomes legible to you. Each pause in her behavior is a doorway to understanding. Then there is her curiosity, the micro-behaviors that reveal a mind constantly weighing, assessing, and predicting. She notices what you do not notice, the way you observe her, the steadiness of your presence, the patience in your voice. These observations are instinctual. They are reflections of her past, calibrated to detect composure, to reward it, to recognize authority. She does not speak of this. It is felt. The subtle tilt of her shoulder, the alignment of her gaze, the micro-adjustments in posture, they are echoes of prior lessons in attraction and trust. And in this landscape of signals, you perceive a rhythm, the ebb and flow of instinct and response. It is a choreography you are only partially conscious of, yet your composure allows you to sync with it. You are aware of the gravity of observation. One misstep, one overreaction, and the dance collapses. But you do not flinch. You do not overcompensate. You observe the patterns as a stoic with the movements of the tides, with calm, without attachment, understanding that control over self precedes understanding of others. You notice her subtle tests of patience, a delayed response to a text, a pause before revealing a detail, a faint hesitation in conversation. To the untrained man, these appear as distance, rejection, or coldness. To you, they are lessons in perception. They reveal not only her history, but the mechanisms of her attention, the architecture of her curiosity, and the invisible rules she navigates in social and intimate contexts. The composed man sees them, not as obstacles, but as maps, guides to both understanding and influence. Then comes the interplay of desire and restraint, the flicker of engagement tempered by caution. She projects confidence, yet measures vulnerability. She projects curiosity, yet tests stability. It is here that the stoic observer perceives the underlying psychology of attraction. Her patterns are consistent, predictable in their subtlety, yet invisible to those who cannot maintain presence. And in witnessing these microdynamics, you learn something fundamental. Attraction is less about seduction and more about perception, less about conquest and more about the quiet mastery of observation and composure. Her history is not written in confessions. It is inscribed in behavior, subtle enough to be overlooked, yet undeniable to the man who watches without expectation. The flicker of a glance, the cadence of speech, the micro-patterns of engagement, these are her stories. And as you witness them unfold, you begin to feel the shift. Your awareness deepens, your authority grows, your understanding of human behavior, both hers and your own, becomes more profound. You recognize now that the hidden signs are everywhere. In a lifted eyebrow, in the rhythm of her laughter, in the subtle tests of space and attention. They are the residue of past experience, the echoes of lessons learned, and the unconscious calibration of instincts. And the men who fail to perceive them remain blind, reacting to surface-level signals, losing opportunity, and misunderstanding the depth of what is happening in front of them. But you are not blind, you are anchored, you are composed. You see without attachment, you understand without interference. Every micro-behavior she exhibits is now legible, revealing not just her history, but the intricate dance of attention, attraction, and instinct that governs human interaction. And in this moment, you realize the profound truth. Mastery over perception is mastery over influence, over attraction, and ultimately, over your own emotional domain. You begin to see the patterns not as puzzles to solve, but as truths to observe. Each micro-signal, each measured hesitation, Each instinctual pause is a reflection, not just of her history, but of your own capacity to remain grounded. In this quiet mastery, you find power, the ability to influence without force, to understand without intrusion, to command respect without assertion. She reveals herself in fragments now, instinctively, unconsciously. A fleeting glance, a brush of movement, the subtle testing of your patience. Each gesture is a whisper of experience. And in noticing them, you gain clarity. Attraction is not a game of manipulation, but of presence, perception, and composed response. The man who moves with calm, who observes without reaction, becomes the axis around which attention and desire turn. The full truth emerges. The behaviors you see are echoes of prior lessons she has lived, but your response determines how they shape interaction. A composed man interprets without judgment, mirrors without desperation, and exerts influence without effort. In this space, she cannot hide instinct. She cannot control your perception. You see everything, and in seeing, you rise above mere reaction. This is the psychological mastery few men attain. To perceive history in motion, to decode instinctual cues, to navigate subtle behavioral patterns, it requires calm, patience, and an unwavering inner presence. And when you cultivate this, you are no longer subject to the surface-level games of attraction. You understand the interplay of instinct, curiosity, and respect. You operate from authority, not coercion. You become a man whose perception alone commands recognition. And so, as the micro-moments unfold around you, as subtle patterns repeat and instinctive behaviors emerge, you recognize your own transformation. You are no longer a passive participant. You are the observer, the anchor, the steady force. Every flicker of hesitation she exhibits is now legible, and in this understanding, you gain a rare power, the ability to navigate attraction with clarity, to engage with women on a level most men cannot perceive, and to see your own strength reflected in the way they respond. Remember this: mastery is silent, perception is profound, and composure is magnetic. The signals were always there. The insight was always available. But now, because you watched, because you noticed, because you anchored yourself in presence, you have access to something few men ever attain: true understanding. You see her past, and in seeing it, you see yourself. Buckle up, this is only the beginning. The truths you've glimpsed are tools, subtle, invisible, and potent. Use them to refine your presence, your authority, and your understanding of human behavior. The world does not reveal itself to the impatient or the reactive. It reveals itself to the composed, the observant, and the unwavering. And you have become that man.